Kalecia Williams' parents say their goal is simple.
We just want everyone to be arrested who has something to do with my daughter's death.
No justice, no peace.
A group of more than 20 people gathered outside the Regency Tuesday to keep the teenager's memory alive.
Justice for Pinky!
December 26th, 16-year-old Kalecia, or Pinky as family calls her, went to a holiday party. Her parents say they were told an adult would look after a group of girls at an Airbnb.
She was responsible for getting the hotel room for these minors. The hotel room was in her name, so I feel like she should be held accountable for my daughter's death as well.
They didn't learn the group was staying at a Hyatt Regency until they received a horrific call the next day.
Like, this is the morgue. And I was like, the morgue? They was like, yes, ma'am. They was like, well, we're waiting on your daughter's body to come through. I'm like, whoa.
Kalecia's parents say that call didn't come until 8:45 a.m. The teen was pronounced dead at 12:23 in the morning, 8 hours prior.
It was just a lot of foul play, and I'm just trying to put all the pieces together because I don't feel like the system is doing enough work to help me.
Kalecia's mother says this is the last known video that shows her daughter alive. It shows her making a TikTok dance and appears startled when someone comes into the room. Within seconds, the video ends.
She was just 16. Hours after posting a joyful TikTok video, Kalecia Pinky Williams was found shot in a hotel room in downtown Atlanta. What happened between her last smile and her final breath has left a nation haunted and a family shattered. This is the story of a night that began with celebration and ended in tragedy. Subscribe to uncover the full truth. Comment your thoughts below. She was just 16, full of energy, bright smiles, and dreams that stretched beyond the walls of any city. Her name was Kalecia Williams. Friends called her Pinky. On Christmas night, 2020, she recorded a TikTok from a hotel room in downtown Atlanta. She was dancing, laughing, alive. Less than an hour later, she was lying on the floor, bleeding from a gunshot wound. Her phone was silent. Her voice never spoke again. The room she danced in became a crime scene. The people she trusted were suddenly nowhere to be found, and the stories when they came were inconsistent, confusing, and alarming. Her parents had no idea she was even at a hotel. The chaperone they believed was watching over their daughter, absent when it mattered most. And the boy who pulled the trigger? That part would only come out after too many questions had already been asked. There was no crowd. No one called out her name. There were no final goodbyes. Just the cold tile floor of a hotel hallway and the broken scream of a mother told far too late. How did a teenage girl end up shot at a hotel party her family didn't approve? Who allowed her to be there? Why were there so many unanswered questions in the hours following her death? And how, in a city full of cameras, noise, and people, could the truth feel so far away? This is the story of a life interrupted, a mother's cry that still echoes through courtrooms and city streets, and a tragedy that, to this day, has yet to sit peacefully in the hearts of those left behind. If you think you know the story of Kalecia Pinky Williams, listen closely. Because what happened in room 320, just steps from a bustling lobby and wrapped gifts waiting under Christmas trees, was real. And someone still hasn't answered for all of it. Stay with us. This is the tragic story of Kalecia Pinky Williams. Like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe, because the truth, no matter how painful, deserves to be told. It was December 26, 2020, the day after Christmas. The streets of downtown Atlanta were quiet that night, wrapped in the lull that follows a holiday. In the heart of the city stood the Hyatt Regency, a towering hotel that sparkled with festive lights. Families checked in. Guests carried shopping bags and leftovers. Laughter echoed in the lobby. But up on one of the higher floors, in room 320, the evening was unfolding in a way no one could have predicted. Kalecia Williams, just 16 years old, was a sophomore at South Atlanta High School. Her energy was magnetic. Her presence filled any space she walked into. She loved to dance. She loved to laugh. Her friends adored her. Her family treasured her. To those who knew her, she was Pinky, a nickname that carried a warmth, a familiarity that matched her personality. That night, Kalecia had permission to attend a holiday party. Her mother was told it would be supervised. A chaperone was expected to be on site to ensure the teenagers were safe. The word party didn't raise alarms because there was a promise of oversight. What happened next would reveal how quickly that promise was broken. Kalecia was placed in a hotel room with a male juvenile. No adult was in the room. The supervision her parents believed was in place had vanished without explanation. It's unclear how much Kalecia knew about the arrangement or whether she was comfortable with it. But sometime around midnight, she did what she always loved doing. She recorded a TikTok video. The footage shows her dancing in a black t-shirt and patterned pants. Her energy is bright. Her face is smiling. For those few seconds, nothing seems out of place. No signs of fear. No visible danger. Then, the video cuts. Abruptly. No farewell. No pause. Just silence. Less than 15 minutes later, the Atlanta Police Department received a 911 call. A teenage girl had been shot inside the Hyatt Regency. When first responders arrived, they found Kalecia lying on the floor. Her injuries were critical. There was nothing they could do. She was pronounced dead shortly after. Her parents, still at home, had no idea she was even in a hotel room. They believed she was at a well-organized event. What they would soon learn would shatter every part of that trust and begin a trail of questions that still haven't been fully answered. The call came in at 12:27 a.m. Police were dispatched to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in downtown Atlanta. Reports were vague, just that a shooting had occurred. When officers arrived, they found a young girl with a gunshot wound in one of the hotel rooms. That girl was 16-year-old Kalecia Williams. She was still breathing. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, fighting the clock with every red light they passed. But the damage was too severe. Despite the efforts to save her life, Kalecia died from her injuries. The official statements released in the early hours were thin, sparse in detail, cold in tone. There was no explanation, no answers, just silence. And that silence only made what followed more devastating. Kalecia's mother wasn't notified by police. There was no call from the hospital, no knock at the door from law enforcement. She didn't hear it from a detective or a nurse or an official. Instead, it was a hotel employee, a stranger, who told her what had happened. Her voice cracks in interviews. The words come out jagged, heavy with disbelief. They didn't even call me. A staff member told me my baby was shot. She had trusted adults to watch over her daughter. She had been told it was a supervised gathering, that someone responsible would be there. But there was no supervision. And now, her daughter was gone. Back at the hotel, the only other person in the room was a teenage boy. He was immediately taken into custody. Witnesses said they had argued. Voices were raised. No one intervened. Then, a single gunshot. In the hours that followed, police began to piece together what had occurred in that room. The boy, whose name has not been publicly released due to his age, was charged with felony murder, aggravated assault, reckless conduct, and unlawful possession of a firearm. He had brought a gun into a hotel room. He had used it. A 16-year-old girl was dead. But the questions didn't stop with his arrest. They only multiplied. Who brought the weapon into the hotel? Where were the adults who were supposed to be present? How did the boy even gain access to a firearm? Why was Kalecia alone with him in the first place? And perhaps the most painful question of all, why did it take hours for her mother to be told? There were no immediate answers. Only heartbreak, only outrage, and a growing sense that someone else, maybe several others, had failed Kalecia in the moments that mattered most. Surveillance footage from the Hyatt Regency told a story no one wanted to hear. There were no chaperones on camera. No signs of responsible adults entering or exiting the room. No supervision. The hotel room hadn't even been booked under a parent's name. No guardian. No emergency contact. It was as if the responsibility for those teenagers had vanished the moment the door closed. Kalecia was just 16. Her life should have been protected by the very people who had promised to care for her. Instead, she had been placed in a setting that no one was watching, except the hotel security cameras recording in silence. And then came the gun. The juvenile male who was with Kalecia didn't just bring a weapon, He had no legal right to possess one. The firearm had been brought without his parents' knowledge. There was no license, no oversight, just a loaded weapon in the hands of a teenager. It was this gun, illegally carried, that ended a young girl's life. And still, perhaps the most chilling piece of evidence came from Kalecia herself. Just after midnight, she had posted a TikTok video. In it, she danced, playful, energetic, smiling as always. She wore a pink outfit. Her energy, unfiltered and genuine, lit up the frame. It was the kind of post she'd made dozens of times before. But this one ended differently. Just seconds before the video cuts off, Kalecia's eyes shift. Her body stiffens. She appears startled, as though someone has just entered the room. And then, the video ends. No more music. No more dancing. That silent break became everything. Investigators would later refer to those final moments of footage as crucial evidence. Frame by frame, they studied Kalecia's last known movements, hoping for a clue. Her expression changed. A sense of alarm flashed briefly across her face. And then, darkness. The final seconds of that video may be the last time Kalecia felt safe. What followed shattered lives. The juvenile suspect was sentenced in juvenile court. Due to his age, the details of that sentencing remained sealed from public view. No televised hearings. No published records. No full accounting offered to the family of the girl whose life was lost. For Kalecia's parents, that silence added to their grief. They had buried their daughter, but the questions that followed were relentless. Who approved this party? Where were the adults? Why wasn't her mother notified by police? And why was a teenager with a gun allowed in a hotel room without a single guardian present? Her parents began speaking out. Publicly. Boldly. Their voices, fueled by pain, demanded more than condolences. They demanded accountability. We just want answers. Justice. And to make sure no other child has failed like ours was. Kalecia's death did more than shake her immediate community. It sparked a national conversation. School administrators, youth advocates, and families across the country began questioning what safeguards really exist for children in adult spaces like hotels. Some called for curfews to be enforced more strictly. Others demanded that hotels implement age restrictions for unsupervised minors. The Hyatt Regency, once just a backdrop to a teenage gathering, was now etched in the minds of many as a site where a preventable tragedy unfolded. But even as public attention grew, one truth never changed. Though a verdict was reached for Kalecia's mother, the pain remains fresh. Her daughter went to a party. She never came home. Do you believe justice was truly served? Should hotels be held accountable when minors are left unsupervised under their roof? What would you have done differently if this were your child, your sister, your best friend? This isn't just Kalecia's story. It's a warning, a reminder, a demand for change. Backhand index pointing right like this video if you believe Kalecia deserves justice. Backhand index pointing right share her story so her name is never forgotten. Backhand index pointing right comment below your thoughts, your theories, or if you've ever faced something similar. Backhand index pointing right subscribe for more stories that demand to be heard, loudly, clearly, and without silence. Rest in peace, Kalecia Pinky Williams. You were loved. You mattered. You still do.